There we go. Right on, gents. Good work. Got you in here, and let's mute up here. I'm gonna mute you up, Matthew. Boom, boom. Beautiful, beautiful. Got Mr. Dalton coming in. Mr. McClellan is in. Beautiful. I'm gonna make sure everybody's all muted up. I got you, Joe. I got you, Jude. Boom. Boom. Muting up, Baron. Beautiful. Let's keep muting. Keep muting up. Calm. I'm gonna mute you. Yeah, there we go. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Boom, boom. Beautiful. Got the Greenfield boys coming in. Gonna make sure everybody's muted. Looking good. Good deal. Henry's muted up. Good work, guys. Good deal. Got Bryce muted up. Dude, you guys are killing it now. You guys are pros. Everybody's coming in, muting up, man. I appreciate it. That is beautiful. That helps a ton. When everybody starts coming in super crazy hot, man, it makes it hard. For sure. Right on, man. Super glad we have you amazing humans in the room and are going to be joined by another amazing human here very, very shortly. So I know he's got the link. So he's going to come in pretty much right from the get-go, man, and we'll just get rocking and rolling. Dude, you guys are amazing. Especially thank you for making it on a Wednesday. I know that gets tough sometimes, but it was where we were, this week with everything going on with Apogee and the Squire partnership, which is exciting, man. So I'll be out there at the Squire program here. I'll be leaving tomorrow. I'm actually going and picking up Malachi on the way, heading in and getting after it. So I appreciate you guys getting here and being on. I'm not going to go too deep into the weeds because I know Mr. Mark Bell will be joining us pretty darn quickly. And I talked to him last night as well and confirmed. So I'm not going to get too far into it so that we don't get interrupted. Once we get off with him, we'll definitely debrief quickly like we normally do, get some of the takeaways there. And then I want to touch on just some of the leadership sheet that I'm going to send out to you guys, and just want to make sure you guys have access to it and know what to do filling that out so we can have your running squads together. I want to let you know a little bit about the Fatherhood program that's coming up, and then I'll have one final kind of thought exercise question for those of you that can stick around and make it. So we will do that as soon as Mr. Bell jumps off. I'll tell you what, I'm going to text him or his producer here in just a sec. While we have a second, while we're waiting for him, anybody have anything going down that they can share, that they'd like to share as far as victories, anything that's going on this week, or any questions you might have for myself or the group?
I have a pretty rad victory. So yesterday I was at the local youth center, and the director of the youth center asked me to give a speech on the 13th, I believe, at a fundraiser for them. So that's pretty exciting.
That's very exciting. So how did that come about, sir? Because they didn't just look at you and go, "Oh, that guy's kind of handsome. He should give a speech." All right, that didn't happen. So not that you're not handsome. I just know that didn't happen.
I've been going there for a few months now, and well, no, it's been well over a year, I guess. But just kind of, my best friends there are the staff.
Okay.
And so I guess it's just being myself and being rad there consistently.
Yeah.
And now I am helping them put together a podcast and giving a speech for them at a important fundraiser. So it's pretty exciting.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Good for you. And it's exactly what you said. It's the consistency. So I love that. Congrats. So when is this talk going to be on, and what's it going to be on?
It's more of a testimonial about the program, and just talking about like how it's affected me. So just kind of, being a salesman for the program.
Okay. Very cool, man. Very cool. That is exciting. Good for you. Congrats on that. Well done, sir. Any other victories? Here we go. I'm just sending the text message to the producer there, letting him know that we're on, see if he's got any kind of issues. Mr. Healy, go ahead, sir.
Hello, sir. I've actually got a pretty great one on pommel, sir.
I love
that skill I mentioned last time.
Yes, sir.
I was doing it wrong, and the way it's done, it's never been done before, and it's actually the hardest skill ever created on pommel.
Is it really?
Yes, sir.
Dude, that doesn't surprise me. That's savage. That makes it even cooler. Hold on. So Mark is saying Andrew was running, the producer was running just a few minutes behind. We can wait until it's all set up. Take your time. Okay, so his producer's running a few minutes behind, so we'll just hit this. So that's no problem. Cool. Dude, so it's the most difficult pommel skill designed.
Yes, sir. There was the actual skill I was trying to learn.
Yeah.
You turn your hand this way, and then you come 3/4 around, grab this way. But I was doing it wrong and coming all the way 1 1/4 turn.
So you were adding the extra difficulty on there without even knowing it.
Yes, sir.
That's hilarious. That's awesome. So did you go back and try the other one?
Yes, sir. It's actually easier now that I've done the
Yeah,
other one.
shocking, right? You guys, like, dude, how metaphorical can we get on this right here, right? Like, this is the reality of it. So Antonio just took off, dude. And when Antonio comes back in, or I got Antonio Gonzalez here, but I got Antonio, JB. So I want you to think about this. Have you got who is probably Antonio? Who's probably the toughest guy you've gotten to roll with?
The toughest guy? Wow, that's I don't know. Well, like what do you mean? Like
Just like hard, like most skilled. So have you gotten to roll with any like brown belts, black belts?
Oh yeah, I roll with multiple black belts on the daily.
Okay. So when you
Go
roll
ahead.
with a black belt,
Mhm.
and then you go back and roll with a white belt. Now, obviously, there's a noticeable skill set that's different, right?
Mhm.
But you see the difference too. If you just rolled with white belts, you'd be like, okay, I can handle this, whatever. But you go roll with a black belt and you're like, okay, this opens my eyes to what a different game this is. So when you go back, you see the difference in the game. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, it is. It's
So
crazy. I'll roll with a black belt, and then I want to keep rolling, but I don't want to stop. Like I don't want to take a break, and so I'll be like, oh, I'll just pick this white belt, and it's just like crazy how I'm able to just manhandle the kid.
it's a vast difference, totally. So what Wyatt's talking about over here too is actually doing the harder thing first. I mean, he went with something vastly more difficult first. And then when he comes back to the other skill, even though it's still a skill he's got to work on, there's a noticeable difference there. I love that conceptually for you guys as well. Going all in on something that is a little bit difficult, not necessarily dangerous, but something that's a little difficult, and multiple levels of an upgrade of what you're used to. Right? You're here, and instead of going up here, you go attack this. And all of a sudden you get to see like what this part looks like, and it's not so scary anymore. I mean, I think metaphorically, there's probably a whole bunch of different ways we could go with that. I just love the fact that that was your experience. And I just think that's rad, man. That's exciting. That's very exciting. So are you going to continue to work on both?
Yes, sir.
That's awesome. Good for you,
I'm
sir.
actually going to wait to compete the hardest one because I'd like to name it. So I have to wait till I can get to an international.
Understood. Good for you, man. That's awesome. That's awesome. Beautiful. Who else? Anybody else have some victories to share before Mr. Bell is able to get in? Turner, talk to me, sir.
So I worked for free for a contract or doing concrete for 8 hours yesterday. It was fun, but it's also hard labor.
It is hard labor. So what did you think about the experience itself? So first of all, how did you get hooked up with that? What was up with the free side? Like, what was that, a volunteer type thing? And then what did you take away from it?
So we hired him to do our concrete pads here at our house.
Got it.
Station, and he needed help because 2 of his employees, one had to go to jail, and he's short on employees, and
Sure.
employees as are dumb. So he really needed me. So I went to go help him for free. He ended up paying me $100 cash later because I stayed extra.
Good man.
Found that that kind of job does not make the kind of money that I'm looking for. I wasn't planning on it, but I was interested to see how it was, how it worked.
Yep.
Learned a lot. He's a kind teacher, and he was willing to help me through everything. How to use trowels, what rakes to use, how to wash certain things off, and how the chemicals in the concrete mix and how it dries up, heats up everything. And it was a wonderful experience, and I had a lot of fun and learned lots.
Good for you, sir. I love that. So here's my favorite part about that is the perspective that you earned right there too. You had an intellectual understanding of what that job entailed, but only in so much of like an academic perspective, right? You didn't have any kind of real world experience to relate it to, and now you do. So you have an informed perspective. We have perspectives on everything. You now have an informed perspective, which makes that a more deep-rooted, realistic perspective. So now you can say with some relative certainty, which you necessarily couldn't a couple of days ago, whether you would or would not want to do that for a long-term thing. Would you want to do that for a long-term sort of gig?
No, I would not.
Oh, and that's a valuable piece of information, right? In the world of, hey, everybody, just follow your passion, follow your passion, follow your passion. I'm all for it, man. You guys should. That's great. But you don't find out what your passion is until you really gain perspective on what it definitely is not as well. Right? If I've only ever experienced 3 jobs in my life and somebody says, what's your favorite job? Well, I've only got that to pick from. And so I'm not saying jump around job to job. I'm saying experience to experience. I'm saying every time you guys are taking on a project, a challenge, a book, you are gaining a new perspective of who you might be, as well as who you are not, who you want to be, as well as who you do not want to be. The things you want to go for, as well as the things you want to stay away from. And that is the value of an experience. It is the value of talking to these mentors. It is a value of taking on the projects and challenges wholeheartedly. It is a product of every single book you read. You can get a deeper perspective. Who do I want to be? What do I want to achieve? What do I want to stay away from? What do I know I don't want to do? Those are all infinitely valuable. It's not just you started here and you're moving your timeline here. Right. And then that's the gap of the impact that you have on the world. No, you're starting here and yeah, you're learning this here, but you're also stripping away any potential garbage here. So as long as you're moving forward and understand what to stay away from, the more you move forward, the more you realize who you don't want to be. Now, all of a sudden that gap is a whole lot bigger. And that is the impact you make as a leader. It's both sides of that. So that's what I love about experiences like that. I think every young man should put himself into the position of being able to tackle some hard labor and to go get after it just to see, because just as much as you're like, nope, I'm good. That was not what some of you guys might jump in there and go, dude, that lit me up. I actually came home fired up and I want to do that again. Also a great perspective, right? But you don't know fully until you experience it. So congrats, sir. I like that. That's awesome. Yeah, well done. Antonio, again, man, you got somebody next to you, man. I don't know who this guy is. I don't know who this guy is.
Yeah, I was gonna introduce you to him. This is Matan. We were to school together.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that he told me that you guys were in
We did.
conversation.
We met this. We did, sir. We met this morning. So yeah, Matan is brand new as of today, you guys. And so we're gonna dive because we've got the guest of the hour here. So we're gonna bring him up. So Matan, after our debrief, we're gonna jump in and we're gonna meet you, sir. Okay, but I'm gonna pin this handsome gentleman right here. What's up, sir?
I'm doing great, man. That beard is just it's starting to take over your whole life. Like
It
it's
is.
gonna be what you're gonna be known more for that than all these other things that you're doing.
That may be unfortunately true. Yeah. And it's not, and dude, it's not just taking over my life. If I don't stay on top of this every day, it will take small children. It will steal from the grocery store. Like this thing gets really homeless really, really quickly. Yeah. It's a mess.
Stuff gets stuck in there a little bit.
Yeah. 100%, man. It's good to see you, bud. How's things?
Things are great, man. Tell me a little bit more about what you got going on with all this. Cause you mentioned some of it on the podcast before and it sounds amazing.
You got a rad group of humans right here. So I'll give you some context. So, when Tim Kennedy and I were out, working out in Texas and talking through the schools and helping him open up, the school out there in Cedar Park, we just started talking about the fact that, he's got a great network of men that he's connected to. I've got a great network of men that I'm connected to. Some of those cross over, some of those don't, but we wanted to do something more for our young men in general. So we put this together. So you've got young men from all over the world on this call, and there's some that can't make the call, but it's recorded and it goes in so they can catch it later. Every month they're committing to 12 months. So every month they got a different book. Every month they got different workouts. Every month they have a different challenge, a different project. And every week they're sitting down with men like you, with men like Andy Frizella, with men like, Tim, with men like Tanner Guzzi, with
continued education going on here.
Continued education. That's exactly it, sir. And so these guys are committing to be, leaders. I mean, they really are. They're committing to figuring out their path, to trying a bunch of different things so that they can figure out who they are and the value they want to bring to the world, man. It's the best.
Ben Greenfield told me yesterday, he's like, my son's all fired up. He's said that you're in his email or whatever, because he's part of this group, I guess, right?
Yes, sir. So we got River and Taryn both in here, and I think they're both on right now. Yeah, man. So
great.
It's cool, man. So last week we had Jay Perugia, right? So I mean, a lot of these guys that we have and talk, you know a lot of these guys
absolutely
very well. So just a whole bunch of good humans, man. So it's pretty rad. And so we like to dive into, these guys are going to end up having the majority of the questions. These guys are going to be asking you some things directly, and they'll have better questions than I will. But I always like to take the guest kind of on a little bit into the leadership journey of like, okay, Mark Bell was 13. He was 15. He was 16. And I know a little bit of that just because I know you and we've had these conversations before, but I'd love to hear from your perspective for these guys. You're a leader at this point. You're known as a leader. You're one of my favorite. Truly, you're one of the only people on IG that I'll actually stop. I don't scroll a whole lot at all, but I'll stop and actually listen to anything you put out there, because I just appreciate your willingness to try things, to change your mind, to calmly observe and support and push back and do all that simultaneously. I think that's a true leadership skill. But you weren't that guy at 14 and 15. Right.
Yeah. A lot of these things, had to learn the hard way. I think when you try something new, it's a lot of times because whatever was old was not working any longer. Mm-hmm. And we see a lot of people in lifting doing that, like myself, switching over to running. A longtime powerlifter. I started powerlifting when I was 12. My dad bought my brothers and I some weights, and I started in the basement. And that's where I kind of learned the value of discipline, hard work. Okay, you're not that good at something right now, but what if I do this for a couple of weeks? What's going to happen? Oh, wow. Now I can feel what it's like to flex my right bicep. Oh my God, what's this, over here after 2 months? Like, oh, I think that's a pec. I think that's what they're talking about. I think that's what Arnold is flexing a lot of times. It's like a pec. And then you just kind of get curious and you're like, well, I wonder, okay, my older brothers are doing this and they've been doing it for longer than I have. Mm-hmm. And they're certainly a lot more muscular than me, and they're bigger than me, and they're stronger than me, and they're faster than me. So what's this going to look like? I mean, imagine I'm 13 now. Imagine if I'm doing this till I'm 15, or what happens when I'm doing this till I'm 17? He starts to just kind of recognize, like, holy smokes, this could be really neat, or it could be just something that is like a side thing in my life. I don't know what's going to happen with this, but for me, at a young age, I was pretty good at it in comparison to my friends right away. I think because I was a little bit of a larger kid. I was pretty heavy. I think around the age of 16 or so, I was like 240, 230. And I already had some lifting under my belt at that point. But when I first started, when I was 12, 13 years old, I just remember like bench pressing with my friends, and I could just do more than them. So the way that I like to think about that sometimes is, you get a group of kids and they're in music class and they're playing a piano. And there's one kid who can like just kill it on the piano and no one knows why. He was barely taught it. And so for me, weights were my piano, and they were kind of my way into like getting recognition, gaining confidence. But I had no confidence when it came to school. That's why I love so much of what you're doing, and why I sent my son to your school, my son Jake. And we found a lot of value in that, because the conventional thinking, the conventional thought, it's not working. We're for some reason we're afraid to admit it. I don't know why the structure has been this way for so long. So maybe people don't want to change, but we can't really just try to go and change everything else about what's going on around us all the time, but you can change yourself. And so be in recognition of when things aren't working, take responsibility and say, this is not really working for me. This doesn't serve me any longer. I power lifted for a really long time. And I think there's still people that follow me that want me to talk more about powerlifting.
Yeah.
But I'm done powerlifting. I moved on to something different. And it's not that I don't like powerlifting. I love it. But I squatted 1,080. I bench pressed 854 pounds. I deadlifted 766 pounds.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, I took that as far as I wanted to take it. And it took a lot out of me. You know, it was really great, but it was also super dangerous. And you did some MMA and stuff like that. There's a price to pay with these things. You know, you punch a bag or you go and run on the street. I mean, the street's hitting you back the whole time. The bag is like kind of literally hitting you back the whole time. There's a lot of contact with your fist and legs and whatever you're hitting against the bag. And over time, you're like, I think I should maybe think about doing something different. And so we got to be open-minded, and we have to understand that knowledge is created by us, and it can be created by anybody. You could be one, or you could be 99, or anywhere in between. And you possess the ability to create knowledge up against anybody, whether it be Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, the most famous, The Rock, whoever it is. You have the ability to add conjecture towards potentially making something that somebody's already executing on so well better. And a lot of times we see young kids do this. And they step in and they say something that's amazing. So for me in school, when I was 12, 13, if I was thinking like, oh man, I wish I could go back or something, like there's no way I wish I could go back, because I was so scared at that time. And I remember talking to counselors and talking to different people, and they didn't have good bedside manner. I don't think they really understood how to talk to a kid very well. It's almost as if they were never a kid.
Yep.
And they're like, Mark, you're in 9th grade, you're on a 4th grade reading level. Like, this is not going to cut it for college. You're not going to be able to go to school. Or they told me a lot of things I couldn't do. And I bought into that because I was a young kid. And I remember, leaving a guidance counselor's office just so sad, just so like emotionally like shook, like almost just cried right there on the spot. And I wish I had a cool story of like, I got up and I was like, hey, you're not going to ever talk to me like that. Like, I'm going to make something of myself, fuck you, and slam the door and walk out. But I said nothing because I believed it. I was like, you know what? They are right. I'm slow. Like, I'm not learning the same way as other kids are. I'm falling behind. The test we took last week, out of 100, I got 40. Like, that's horrible. Like, I'm not good at some of these things and I'm not picking them up. And so I thought that I was like really, stuck and couldn't learn the same way as the other kids. And that may have actually been true. Maybe for me, I might have had to learn a slightly different way. But I kind of thought at that point that I just couldn't learn at all.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I was at when I was that age.
And most people will hear something. Most people won't have the cool story of getting up and being like, oh yeah, watch this. Most people won't. They'll sit in that fear, and they will sit in that fear until they're our age. And they'll sit in that fear until they're your dad's age. They'll just stay in that fear forever. They'll own that versus owning the reality that Mark Bell is a genius. He's going to maybe have to do things differently. He's going to try, but he is a genius. Like, they'll sit in that fear. And I think one of the words you used in there was curious. And I think people that the people that get away from that fear and really are able to lean into, being the people that are making those changes, they cultivate that curiosity and that long tail thinking, like you kind of put out there, where do you think that curiosity came from for you? Do you think that was a natural thing? Like long tail thinking is hard for adults. Never mind you at 12, 13 go, maybe if I take a couple years at this powerlifting thing, maybe I'll get a little better, right? Like, where do you think that curiosity and kind of long tail thinking, is that something your parents, kind of exemplified? Do you think that was a natural thing for you? Like, where do you think that came from?
I think having support was a huge thing. So I'm very fortunate. I grew up with two great parents, grew up with two great brothers,
For sure.
and a big family and a big united family. And they say it takes a village to raise a child. My family took that very literally, and I was with my aunts and uncles and cousins and brothers, like just so I always like to share that with people because I didn't have a lack of hugs. I didn't have a lack of kisses. I didn't have a lack of mom and dad saying, you're the best, you're special, you're different, you're going to make your own mark your own way. Like they said it over and over, and you never believe your parent. You're like, they don't know what they're talking about.
Sure.
I'm going to believe what that guidance counselor told me.
For sure.
But I'm not going to believe mom and dad
That
who
lady
care
who
so
hates
much
her
about
job
me.
and her life and doesn't know me at all, she's got it figured out for sure.
Right? I don't know why. I don't know why that happens, but that's kind of the way it goes, unfortunately. So I had that structure behind me, and I had that to kind of lean on. However, I also think it was a little bit out of like necessity, like survival. Like when I was doing something physically, I could like blast other kids. We're playing football or something. I could run someone over. I could smash into somebody and run into them like a tank. If we're lifting weights, I could beat them on that. If we're, running a race, I was pretty fast too, so I could beat them in that. I could beat someone arm wrestling. I'm like, I'm the champ and all this stuff. I feel amazing. I could have gone the route of a bully probably, right?
Sure.
I never did, but I could have easily gone that route. But I think the insecurities in school and in the classroom, I felt the complete opposite. And I think that's probably why I never became a bully, because I was like, this feels so bad. I don't need anybody else even picking on me or saying anything. This feels so bad not to be able to figure this out. And so I think for me, it was like, I am forced. You forced my hand. I have to think differently.
Yeah.
Even nowadays, like I don't read. And it's something I should definitely, like, I'm in total observation and I'm totally guilty. I, Mark Bell, need to read. I don't read well. And so I don't ever work on it. And so it's like, I do think that some of our problems, we like harbor them, we foster them, we kind of need them in some weird way.
Yeah.
And so that's one of them for me that I hold on to. But what I would like to challenge people with is, let's see what happens if you feel that you can't read, and then how would you obtain knowledge? How would you get smarter? And so for me, I had to use a lot of different thinking because, again, remember, at a young age, I bought the story that I couldn't do stuff. I know I'm aware that that's not the case any longer.
Right.
I could go and read and I could commit myself to it. I know I could get better at it. The reading comprehension, the whole thing could be a lot better. But as a kid, I didn't think I could read. So it's like, how am I going to, I have trouble learning the same way as other kids. So how am I going to be able to do something different? And that's where I just had to have some outside the box thinking. And I just recall, like, just little stuff as a kid, being put into specialty classes when I was younger. What was weird about it is the classes were, I'm 45 years old. And so at the time when I was put into those classes, they didn't really have, school. My dad explained this to me really well one day. He's like, he's trying to be nice, but basically he's like, school's not for everybody.
Sure.
He's like, he's like, there's a percentage in the middle that it's for. There's 20% of the kids that are flying, they're super fast, and they do not want to be in 7th grade. They actually belong in 9th or 10th grade, but they can't go there because it just doesn't work that way. You can't just go and skip everything all ahead. And he's like, and then there's the kids that are in the middle. He's like, it works for 20, 30%. He's like, and then there's another percentage that really struggles and needs extra help. But even within that percentage, there's a lot of diversity. And so I was really fortunate when I went into some of these classes that I did have a teacher that actually did care a lot. And she actually told me, she was like, Mark, she's like, I can't say this in front of the other kids. I don't know how to word this properly. And she's like, so I'm just going to choose my words carefully. But she's like, you recognize you're a lot different than a lot of the other children in this classroom, right? And I said, oh yeah, 100%. I know what you're talking about. The kid behind, the kid behind me is in a wheelchair. The
Sure.
other kid. I mean, these are people that have something that you can see.
True.
They have particular issues
Visible disability
that you can actually physically see,
Yeah.
right? And so those classes were a struggle for me as well, because I wouldn't get challenged in those classes. So because they just at the time, they didn't have any systems in place to like really, I guess, just take a moment with a kid that just maybe needed stuff explained a little bit slower. That's probably all it was.
Yeah.
I was just like, hey, Mark, I think we need to get you a tutor. Let's try to make sure it's not some hot young girl that you're going to be, sweating over the whole time. Because that was always a big thing at that age. Like, I mean, if I could shut off that side of my brain when I was a kid, I probably would have been totally fine. Probably would have
focus on everything else. Yeah, totally. No
but
doubt.
that was always a big distraction. But yeah, I probably just needed a little extra kind of care, extra help in that way. And it just wasn't available at the time.
Sure.
And so what ended up happening to me happening for me rather, is that I put up like a block, like a roadblock. I used it. I was like, I can use this disability to my advantage. Like kids are going to do that. And even as adults, we're going to do that. Right.
Yep.
Okay. Well, it seems like it's really daunting to take like Spanish or to take some of these other classes. So I'm just going to tell them I can't do it. I don't want to learn. I don't even want to try to learn how to play an instrument. So I'm not even going to bother. So those were like classes I was able to get exempt from because I just kind of just told them I just didn't want to do it. I got too much anxiety. I don't want to mess with it. So I was able to kind of like halt and my own progress, which is really interesting because somebody probably should have stepped in and said, we're going to kind of just make you do these classes and you're going to go at your own pace, but you got to hear some Spanish, you have to hear some French, or we're going to find a piano, or we're going to find something that you can play or do, or something, some exposure to it. But
just to try.
Yeah, completely exempt. Yeah. No trying.
Just to try. Yeah. And that's, it's a product. Your dad is spot on. And I think more people, with that percentage of breakdown, I think it's easier for people to understand if they look at it as a game. If you look at, school as a particular game, and then you compare it to another game, basketball is a game, and certain people are going to have a certain proclivity for it. They're going to love it. They're going to naturally excel at it. Some are going to be okay. Some are going to be horrible. Some are going to really like it. Some are not going to like it. You're going to have all of that, but we pretend, unfortunately, that the school game and being good at that is what automatically transfers over into succeeding in life or not, which again puts all that extra pressure there. Nobody says, hey man, if you don't develop your 3-point shot, man, life is going to be miserable. Like nobody taught, that's not a thing. But
this is on your permanent record is what they used to say. This is going to be on your permanent record. 11th grade, this is going to be on your permanent record.
Right. What is that?
Like, what record?
Exactly. It's like God is looking down and he's just like, no, Mark sucks. Like it's just not going to happen for him.
What is this D in math? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, like, right.
It's going nowhere.
Totally. So it just makes it, dude. So it just makes it so, it makes it so hard and puts some undue pressure. And then it does it. It what you were talking about earlier about curiosity and wanting to go and being exposed as part of that curiosity. You can't know you're curious about exploring something to a greater length if you've never been exposed to it in general and you don't even know what it is.
I got to just butt in for a second and then go back to this topic of curiosity and creativity. Yes, again, this was encouraged by my parents a lot. So while I did pull some stunts in school to like get out of certain things, my parents, my brother Mike could pick up a baseball bat and just knock the shit out of a ball. He could pick up a football and chuck it and throw it. Like we all know these kids They're real dynamic with anything they do. If he tried to mimic a comedian or tried to say, repeat something someone else said, he could do it to a T. He could nail it. He was just always like really good at observation and like picking stuff up like that. For myself, it wasn't always that way. Occasionally I'd find something I was good at, like with weights, but like something like playing wiffle ball at my grandparents' house. I remember, striking out and having a little pity party for myself. I was the youngest of two brothers, but also the youngest of an entire family, which is like this giant tribe of Bell family in Buchanan, New York, near New York City. And I was constantly teased and picked on by my other family members because I was always crying because I was being a little baby all the time.
Yeah.
And I'd like strike out or something and I'd be bummed and I'd like throw the bat or something. My dad's like, no, he's like, you don't do that. You don't, get angry just because you missed the ball a couple times. And I'm like, well, I want to, go again or something. He's like, no, you struck out, so like they would teach me these things. Like, we got to keep trying, keep working on it. Like, hey, let's work over here. Let's work on hitting the ball so you can make contact, so you can get some exposure with some success. And I think this is a big thing that a lot of people are missing is you need to get exposure. This is done in psychology all the time, but it's kind of more done with the negative. Like, oh, you're scared of this spider. We're going to bring this spider in and we're going to show you a picture of a spider first. Can I show you a picture of a spider from 15 feet away? You cool with that? It's a photograph. Okay, now we're going to bring in a fake spider.
Right.
And so on, right? They keep exposing you to it. Okay, Mark, you're having trouble hitting the ball. We're going to put the ball on a tee. And so the ball is going to be motionless. You think you'll be able to hit that? Okay, cool. Okay, cool. You hit it once, but it kind of just went on the ground. Like, it didn't really go anywhere. Can you see if you can hit it? Can you hit it straighter? Okay, maybe if you hold the bat like this. Okay, oh, that looks pretty good. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you an underhand pitch. I'm going to take this ball, see the ball, make sure you look at the ball the whole time, and I'm going to throw it to you underhand. It's going to be real slow. It's going to lob up in the air, and it's going to be in the same spot as where that tee was. So if you swing kind of the same way you just swung, you should be able to hit it.
Yep.
Sure enough, you make a little contact. Oh, let's try that again. Okay, now let's put you back into the game. You got some exposure with some success. And now let's see what it looks like. You got your cousins are now making fun of you, teasing you, calling you smelly. That's been my nickname since I was a little kid. Hated taking showers. So everyone's teasing me, making fun of me. And then sure enough, boom, I make some contact. And maybe the ball fouled off or maybe it wasn't the best hit, but at least I got some exposure. I got proof. You can't fake that proof. You can't fake the people have these affirmations and they want to say nice things about themselves, but you can't say fake stuff about yourself.
That's right.
You can't say, man, I'm really great at swinging that baseball bat. Your body keeps track and it keeps score and knows that's not true. You're not great at it yet. And you know it. You know you're not great at it yet, probably because you're not exposing yourself to it, probably because you're not good at it, that you're not exposing yourself to it, as I mentioned earlier with reading.
Vicious cycle. Yeah, so good. And I love the keying in on that affirmation part in the end. Todd, have you ever had Todd Herman on the show?
I have not.
He's phenomenal, man. I'll make an intro to you too. We had Todd. So he wrote The Alter Ego Effect.
I'll write the name down right now.
Yeah, and he's phenomenal. So he's worked with a lot of athletes, a lot of celebrities, but he works on kind of this concept of developing the alter ego. So you start to take a look at pieces of yourself that you want to get better. You start to mimic people that have done well in that, and you start to go, okay, well, I relate, his fatherhood kind of alter ego, he relates to Mr. Rogers. And so he steps into like a Mr. Rogers role when he's home with his kids. But then when he goes out to work and he's working, Todd, he puts on his glasses and he's kind of this Clark Kent. And he's got all these different alter egos. And he talks a lot about the fact that you've got to have an emotional attachment to these egos because you're trying to get better in those areas. And that the affirmations themselves, though, are not going to do the trick. You've got to also act as if you've got to start to stack the wins and the little micro experiences that are in there and connect those then to the affirmations. And that's what makes it stick. That's what makes it powerful. So yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on.
And writing stuff down can be really powerful.
Yes, sir.
And you hear people talk about it quite a bit with journaling and stuff. And But look, I also want to make sure I'm really clear on there's a million different ways to work all this out. Like
Mhm.
million different ways.
Yep.
You can go the Grant Cardone route. You can just be like, he'll say, like he was an awful person. Like he was just shitty. He struggled.
Mhm.
He was an alcoholic. And most of the people that you're looking for to do this kind of seminar type thing are people that we're kind of putting up on a pedestal. We're saying like Andy Frisella, some of these guys are people that we have placed high value assignment in our society. But we can learn a lot from someone who's a loser.
You bet.
Because you could say, hey man, told me like you're a wonderful looking person. You said you had a college degree, right? Okay, cool. You have a master's degree. Wow. That's fucking awesome. You have a family, got support. Tell me how you threw it all away.
Yeah. Tell me how you
And I'm
blew it
going to
all.
take a bunch of notes. Like
Yes.
I'll probably learn more from you than I'd ever learn from someone who's
Yep.
really successful. However, there are things that you can look at and you can say, now these things seem to be fairly common amongst people that are moving along really well.
Right.
We know the don'ts. You know, there's like getting addicted to drugs.
Sure.
Is a really bad don't. Trying or not trying, but like being in a relationship that's just not working is a really bad don't. You're going to be really stuck, and forcing stuff that's just not there. That's going to be another thing that's not going to work. But something like writing something down and even an affirmation, these are things that allow you to kind of back your way in, work your way backwards. And I've always been backwards.
Mhm.
You know, I was told I was dyslexic and told this, told that. And rather than thinking that as a negative, as I got older and as I got stronger, and as I built up the ultimate superpower, which is willpower,
Yeah.
I think every person has like divinity within them, and I think it's our willpower. And so with that willpower and with building up some confidence from lifting, I said, you know what? I'm going to make it great to be dyslexic. I'm going to make that the advantage. And so I do stuff backwards. Someone's like, how'd you figure that out? How'd you come up? I was like, oh, work my backwards into it. And I've done that time and time again. Oh, I want 1,000-pound squat. All right, well, okay, to work 1,000-pound squat, I'm going to have to squat 225 this many times this way. And this can take this many years. You know, no. We're not going to go that route because I don't know how to do that math. That math doesn't make any sense to me. I'm going to work my way backwards. I wonder, how can I figure out a way? What's the quickest, fastest way for me to figure out a way for me to expose my body to something that wild? How do I kind of figure that out? And so like one of the exercises that I did most often was called a reverse band squat. A reverse band squat would give me exposure to exactly what I was looking for. Coincidentally, my invention, which made me wealthy, is called the Slingshot. The Slingshot is a supportive upper body device for bench press, push-ups, and dips. For somebody that can bench press, let's say 300 pounds, they can now bench around 350 pounds when they put on a slingshot, because a slingshot goes up over your elbows, it stretches across your body, and it gives you more support to be able to get exposed to more weight. And so that's kind of the way that I've always done things in my life. And when you write things down, when you say, I want to be a millionaire, this is something I did years ago. I'm like, I want to be a multi-millionaire. I want to be able to try to figure that out. And then I remember, okay, let me work my way. I wonder, you know what's weird? I don't know if I ever really thought about this before, but I wonder how much money I make in a day. I wonder how much, and I can't even remember at the time.
Yeah.
It's probably horrible. Maybe it was like $50 or something. I don't know. But I started to do some math with my handy dandy phone, with my calculator. You don't want me doing the math on my own. And the magic number is 2750. You need to make $2,750 a day to make $1 million at the end of the year. And so you can maybe you want to maybe your first goal is 100,000. So now we just move that decimal point around.
That's right.
And see, now all of a sudden being dyslexic is cool. Now all of a sudden I'm good at math. He's like, oh my God, that's pretty cool. I never heard anybody figure it out quite like that.
So good, man. So good. Leaning into who you actually are. So tell me how this, and gentlemen, I want you guys to, because truth be told, I can sit and talk to Mark for hours and I'll never get old. It'll never get old for me. I want you guys to start putting your hands up, because I'm going to call on you guys in a second. How does all of that experience, figuring out, having that support that you had as a family, figuring out that, look, man, you're far from dumb. You might look at things differently, and that is actually a superpower, and you're actually going to make so many good things happen. How does that influence the way you parent and the way you raise your own kids? Because I'll tell you from experience, getting to know your young man, I always tell parents, if I spend a little bit of time around a young person, it doesn't take me too long before I can get a pretty decent idea of who the parents are. Right? It's not that difficult. And it wasn't long being around Jake where it's just like, man, I already liked your folks, but I like them even more because I can tell the kind of support that you have. He's just a freaking rad young man. He just is. So was that a conscientious decision for you as far as how you parent with him? And I know you got a daughter too. I just never met her.
100%. I try to put myself in, this is for relationships all across the board. What would it be like for you to be your spouse? What would it be like for you to be your child? What's your child's perspective? You came home from work. They don't really know your state. They don't know, they just don't know. They don't have that many life experiences. They're 7 or 10 or something. And you come home from a quote unquote long day and you're already frustrated. And they say, hey, can we throw the ball outside? And you're like, well, you made a mess over here. Like you didn't clean this up. And I just checked in your room and that's messy too. So no, maybe later or something, they don't really know, so if you take yourself just out of your own self for just a moment, you just put yourself inside that little person's body for a moment and just think all they were doing was waiting for you to come home. They were super excited. They were super excited to see you. And maybe like over time and learning your child, you can kind of learn how to word this and place this, but you could say, you know what, I want to get a glass of water. I just want to get a drink real quick. And I need to use the restroom or whatever. Maybe because you got to clear your head for 10 seconds. Sometimes putting life on pause is like the ultimate superpower.
For sure.
And so you just a moment to yourself, go out, throw the ball around and say, hey, I almost tripped over your basketball and landed on your Legos on the way in, and joke with them about it. And say, that's not the greatest place. Hey, did you get a chance to clean your room up in a while? And you're still throwing the ball around. You're still getting. So I've always tried to do the best that I can. I've always tried to do things like that. Let's just make it sound silly. Let's just make it sound kind of funny. Or I'll just say, maybe I'll use myself as an example and say, hey, the other day Mom gave it to me because I left a bunch of, a bunch of dishes out and they were dirty and I didn't wash them. And then, maybe your kid's like, oh yeah, I'm kind of getting messy too, or something like that. So you try to find common ground and try to put yourself into that person's shoes. And this will do you wonders when you're, maybe one day when you're married and you put yourself into your wife's shoes or your spouse's shoes and you just say, oh, I wonder what their perspective is on this. Cause you got complaints about your spouse, but what are their complaints about you? They're probably nearly endless.
That's right, man. And it's the self benefit too. It keeps you more calm when you're willing to do that. Cause you don't rush to judge every little thing that you think is offending your, delicate sense of whatever needs to be right, and somebody's upset at you on social media or somebody's upset about this. And it's like, okay, man, you're willing to put yourself in those shoes and it helps keep you calm. It's like, look, everything's not a big deal. And you can just move forward easily. I love that, man. And that's another one of the things that, again, I respect about you so much is your ability to just enjoy life in that way. There is a calm sense of enjoyment And I think those two things, being calm and being able to enjoy life and enjoy what's coming at, and you know, I think those are cultivated superpowers, man. So, oh,
So many of the times the things that come at us, they're just not really that big a deal.
so true, sir.
They're
So
just
true.
not really that big. There are things that are big deals.
Of course.
But you'll know them. They'll
Yeah.
hit you square, you know, right between the eyes.
That's right.
And you'll know that every person can identify
Yep.
those big giant things. But your kid throwing a football and breaking a window, like it
is what it is.
it's a little tiny story inside this person's life, you know, or the kid you know, breaking something and just hoping that you never find out, or you know what,
That's
whatever
right.
the thing is. Like kids just get into the stuff and that just happens.
That's exactly right. And then you as the dad get to choose, is this a moment that we go back to, or is this a defining moment? And by defining moment, I mean, it can go either way. Do you lose your shit because he just broke that window and now it becomes a defining moment where he's got this seed of fear that's rooted, right? Or do you just make it a moment where it's just like, okay, we're going to fix this, and it becomes a story. And that may too become a defining moment where he just realizes, you know what, dad came at it like this. That's the kind of man I want to be as well. You know, you get to choose. Is it a moment or is it a defining moment on how you handle it?
I did have a moment like that with my son. We were in New York City with my wife and daughter as well. And we tried to rent a car, and there was some like just we were really screwed rent a car wise. And so we were renting a car to get out of New York City to go see some family on the Jersey Shore. It's like a 3-hour drive or something like that. And we were excited, and we planned everything out. We left the hotel. We had all this luggage. We walked through the streets of New York City with a bunch of luggage. We got to the rental car place, and it was just very clear that it wasn't going to work.
Mm-hmm.
That it not only was it going to be hours, but even after a bunch of hours, we still weren't going to be assured that we had a car, which we already rented and they already took our money for, but didn't have a car for us for whatever reason, right? And my wife got pretty stressed, and she's like, I'm going to stay here and I want to find out, you know, figure out what's happening. And I said, Jake, let's go for a walk. He's like, okay, cool. So he and I go on a walk. We go into a deli, and we get some food and stuff. We get some pizza, of course, because we're in New York City.
Yeah,
which is amazing. And meanwhile, I'm texting my buddy. A friend of mine owns like a car service, right? And so I'm fortunate that I have money to be able to do these kinds of things, but you can end up with great conveniences sometimes. So me and Jake are waiting for the pizza. I get a text back from my friend. He's like, I can get you a car. It'll probably take about 2 hours. I was like, great. Like, that's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Oh, we get to hang out with my family for an extra 2 hours in New York City. Sounds amazing. So, you know, I tell Jake, and I'm like, okay, I was like, we have a car. It's going to be a while, but we just got to hang out more, you know? And he's like, and I'm like, you saw how mom was she was really frustrated, right? Yeah. She's really disappointed. And because she had an anticipation, we thought for sure that this was going to happen this way. And now it's like change of plans. And here's the question you got to ask yourself. How mad are you going to get? And for how long?
Yep.
How mad are you going to get? Are you going to beat the crap out of somebody over this? Or like, and even if you did that, are you going to beat the crap out of the other person that's working there too? Like, how mad are you going to get? And how does it serve you? How does it helpful? Is it helpful? Is it helpful to get really mad, or is it helpful to start to think about stuff in a little bit more of a mechanical way of like problem solving? Yep. Okay, well, if I yell at this guy a bunch and tell him I think his mom's fat, like that's not gonna that's funny. It's not gonna move the needle. It's not gonna get us a car. So we have to figure out something slightly different. And so that's what we did on that day. I texted my wife. I said, hey, meet us at the deli. We're over here eating some pizza. We walked around New York City, got to see some more of it. Yes, it was a little weird trying to bring our luggage around, but a car came for us and we were good to go.
And had a great experience out of it. That's
right.
awesome.
Otherwise, we could have all just been sad and mad and
miserable. That's right. And all it is a choice, man. All it is a choice, but it's just like any other muscle. You practice those kind of choices to make those kind of choices, you know?
Absolutely.
So good. Mr. Baron King, you're up, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir, for getting on the call. I was going to ask, when you find stuff that you're good at, is that all you do, or do you expand your skills like to new stuff and like get better at a lot new stuff and just like not just focus on one thing only?
Thank you for the question. That's really thoughtful. That's a well thought out question. You know, I think for myself, what's that? You say something? Oh, never mind. I think for myself, it's always been important for me to understand that literally everything is a skill set. And so that's where I try to gravitate towards is like everything is learnable and many things are knowable. You can kind of think about a particular skill that you're about to learn, MMA, jujitsu, running, weightlifting, whatever it is that you're learning how to cook or something like that. You can think to yourself, like, I wonder what's knowable about this topic, because even within a given skill set, even within a given topic, there's so much to discuss. So how much better could you get at something? I mean, there are things that when you first start them, like there's just so much to be told about it. Like MMA comes to mind because it's just like, wow, there's a lot there.
Yeah.
But if you broke it down, if you start to break things down, I think it was Henry Ford who said, if you break things down into small enough parts, nothing's that big of a deal. And you just continue to like break it down. Well, now it's like, okay, well, MMA, we got some stand up, we got some punching, we have some grappling, we have jujitsu, we got, there's a bunch of different skill sets to learn, Muay Thai, so on. I can't do them all in one day. I'm not going to learn them all in one day, but I wonder what it's going to look like. Again, that curiosity. I wonder what it's going to look like if I just do this really often for many, many years. That's the only way to get there, is to do something for many years. I have like a 10-year rule. I have not really seen anyone that has broke this rule before. But you're not going to be that good at something unless you've been doing it for about 10 years. And the reason that is because you have to mess up a lot of times, and you also have to find like your own way, your own path. So to answer the question a little bit more directly, it is important to understand where you're strong, but it's also important to kind of see what's weak, because if you only work on the strength, you're going to be missing a lot of valuable lessons. You're going to be missing out on the journey and like the struggle. And so you can ride that strong part out for a long time, and you can get a lot out of it, and you can be really proficient, but you're going to get beat. Someone's going to beat you somewhere, and more importantly, you're going to cease to make progress at a certain point. So you have to kind of find the holes in your game, almost like you're trying to scientific method yourself all the time. Like, yes, this works. This is a concept of mine. I don't really like the word belief, because I don't like to be too attached to them. But this is a concept of mine. I'm going to drive forward with this one. But, oh, wait, what about this? Like I've been getting into running more recently.
Yeah.
And so when I've been running, I'm trying to think about, like, what if someone came on a run with me, and what if they wanted to do sprints? Shit, I'm going to get my butt kicked. Like, I'm not going to be great at that. So poke holes in the things that you're doing currently and try to think, yeah, where are there some weaknesses in this? As an example, in my powerlifting career, I was able to go from around an 800-pound squat. I went from 800 to 943 to 1,080 in a really, really fast amount of time. I want to say it was probably about an 18-month span from 800 to 1,080 in an 18-month span. The only thing that changed in that time span was I drilled my weakness. I decided, so when you do a squat, a limiting factor in a squat, I mean, it could be a bunch of things, but for me, a lot of times it came down to I would cave forward and I would turn a squat into a good morning. So my body would bend forward And then I had to like basically deadlift my squat.
Yep.
I had to do like a hip hinge and use my spine a lot. So I changed my training up and I said, every other week, I'm going to do really heavy good mornings. A good morning is you put the barbell on your back, you bend forward, and you bend so far forward that your shoulders go past your toes or like even with your toes. And then you stand back up with the weight. And you can look online. If you look up like Mark Bell doing good mornings, you'll see me doing good mornings with 500 pounds, 600 pounds, and like a bunch of chain weight and stuff on the bar. So over a period of time, I just made myself so resilient because I understood that when I went to do my squats, when the squats got heavier and heavier, I would go from being in this ideal position to being compromised. And this happens in our life over and over again. You're in this good, strong position. You're like, I think I got this. This is pretty cool. All of a sudden, now you're in a compromised position. Now we see who the champions are. Now we see who the people are that have done their homework. Muhammad Ali said, they asked him, how many reps do you do? And he famously said, I don't believe in counting reps until it hurts a lot. No pain, no gain. And so he's like, once I got to a bunch of reps and all of a sudden there was a burn, that's when I'd go 1, 2, 3. And he's like, and I would do 20, 30, 40, 50 extra because that's what it takes to be a champion. So find those weak points, find those areas where you want to give up and where you want to give in, lean into them even more. Not too hard at first because especially if it's something physical, because you will hurt yourself. Like there's no question about it. You'll get hurt anyway, but you want to mitigate.
Sure.
You want to mitigate that pain. So just be careful with stuff that's new. You have to be cautious with it.
Yeah. Super smart about that. What do you think, Baron?
Thank you, sir. That was a great answer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I mean, you're doing the same thing with the running and starting on, I remember one of your videos, you're like, hey, I'm going to start out running like I'm hundreds of years old, right? And just like this little mini shuffle. And that's metaphorical for that entire journey, man. You're just starting out with those little pieces and then continuing to poke holes and continuing to try and continuing to, and when when he's saying he's running, you're talking about a record lifting, human being, massively one of the strongest people on the planet, who's now doing multiple mile runs, and you've now run 60 some odd days in a row, I believe, right? I mean,
today was, I think day 63 and I ran 6 miles this morning.
6 miles. Yeah. That's friggin' fantastic. Absolutely love it. All right, Logan, go ahead, sir.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you so much, sir, for hopping on the call today. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day.
Thank you.
Sorry, something walked into the room. So my question for you is today, something I don't really hear talked about as often as some other things. So what character qualities define a good athlete?
Character qualities.
Yeah.
You guys are coming with some real heat this morning.
Come with some heat, man.
Questions.
I know.
I think, in my opinion, there's no stronger character trait that you can have than to believe in yourself. Like the belief in yourself is so powerful. This gets into like just so many other conversations sometimes when you start talking about some of these things, because I think the things that we sometimes observe as being selfish are actually very selfless. Because if you have a lot of good character, you can be relied on. You can be a leader. You can provide for other people. Here at Slingshot in West Sacramento, we also have Super Training Gym here. This is the home of my podcast as well. And over the years, we've employed probably 50, 60 people over a period of time. And we provided a lifestyle for people. And that's all via my parents instilling in me, for me to have a good, strong belief in myself. They gave me enough confidence to try a bunch of stuff, wasn't very good at it, tried a bunch of other stuff, wasn't very good at it. tried some lifting weights, like, oh, I'm pretty good at that. That's kind of cool. And then tried it and tried it and tried it, built up a lot of confidence. And again, you can't just get it from your parents. Your parents can't just tell you that you're pretty and you're smart and I don't even think parents really do that too much. I think, like, give props where warranted, just like you would if you were someone's like sensei. Make it earned. You don't just tell your kid he's smart. You say, oh my God, these grades are huge improvement. You're getting smarter. Congratulations. Like, this is really smart of you that you put the time and effort into this. And you want to reward that effort more so than just saying someone's pretty or smart. It just doesn't.
For sure.
It just doesn't really doesn't hold weight as much. But I believe that your character in general is also something that is it's something that's created. It's something that's made. It's something that's like harbored or forested. It's like you know how they say, like, that guy just made up his mind. Like, one day the guy just made up his mind. He stopped drinking. That guy just made up his mind. He lost a bunch of weight. You can make up your character. Like, you can make up you get to make up. I mean, you've heard Joe Rogan talk about, like, be your own character in your own movie, kicking everybody's ass, right?
Right. That's right.
You get to make that. You get to make this avatar. So the belief in yourself is really, really important. And I think that you're going to have to spend a lot of time on yourself, which, again, you'll have to kind of block out some of the noise of people saying that you're selfish. But even the most selfless seeming acts are there. There's always some reward to it. Even a man that goes in and visits children. I got my friend Jason Kalipa on the podcast later on today.
Oh, do you? Cool, man.
Jason,
Jason's come on with these guys a couple times.
Great. Yeah, Jason is amazing. His daughter was unfortunately diagnosed with leukemia years ago, and they had to take on that battle as a family. But even somebody that goes and visits a child in the hospital, while you're saying you're doing it for the child, it's so important for yourself. I mean, there's been studies done on this. When you give to other people, it's actually the reward that it has, and the hormones that it produces in your body are very similar to the hormones that would be produced if you went and did something for yourself. So while it is important you pour time into yourself, you're going to have to also manage pouring some time into some other people, because that's going to amplify your results. That's going to increase everything that you're doing. And so, and this is just kind of a good just life note in general. I found this to be really useful. When you run, you'll find pains, and you'll find things that hurt. Sometimes you're like, oh, my ankle kind of hurts, and I don't know, 3 minutes goes by and 5 minutes goes by and it's gone for some reason. You're like, I don't know what happened, but that was actually really hurting. I thought I was going to have to stop. You listen to music, you distracted yourself. Sometimes in life, you'll have to figure out ways of distracting yourself enough to where you're not just, if you're only focused on yourself, you're going to have a lot of ups and downs. And if you focus on other people, it can make you feel really wonderful. If you just share with somebody, I know Bedros Keuilian is big on this. He'll just hit you up every once in a while and say, hey, man, just thinking about you. Appreciate you. Have a great day. He does some daily gratitude, right? First thing in the morning. Some other people are huge fans of it. Well, why do you do that? You do that to build up that character. Yes, you're doing it for the person. You do actually appreciate them. You're not just doing it to get points for yourself for the day. You're not that selfish, but it is kind of going into that category of building up your character. And so over time, I think the most important character trait, not just for an athlete, but for anybody, is their belief in themselves.
So good. What do you think, Logan?
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Yeah, so good, man. I love that, man. I love that Bedros does that. We're going to go down to Squire. I'm going to go to a Squire program tomorrow. Go in there and go help those guys run one out here in North Carolina. So we're gonna go rock and roll
That's
this
awesome.
week, man. So fun. Yeah, and I love that. And that cultivating that belief in yourself over time so that it gets to knowing Logan. And Logan, you've got a track record of just of victories, man, that you have pushed yourself through, and you've pushed yourself through some of those little aches and pains, metaphorically speaking, to where you focused on, okay, I'm going to go out there and do the right thing. I'm going to go serve. And then you've come out the other side and overcome those bumps. You know, I think you can directly relate to exactly what Mr. Bell was just saying right there. Very much so. Antonio Gonzalez.
People can see it when you believe in
Oh,
yourself.
yeah.
Other people can see it and they gravitate towards that.
For sure. Antonio Gonzalez. You look much different than when you were playing with the Falcons, sir.
Thank you, sir, for being on this call today. My question for you is, outside of your family members, who else gave you a lot of wisdom and gave you a lot of knowledge that you have today? Because I know that you mentioned, you weren't lacking anything from your parents, and they poured into you a lot. So who outside of that was also pouring into you, and like a role model or anybody else that you looked up to? And yeah.
Yeah, there's so many people, it's definitely not just one person, but I did learn a lot of things from my powerlifting coach, Louis Simmons. And being around a guy like that, Louis Simmons famously has had a gym. He passed away about a year ago, or a couple months ago rather. He has a gym in Columbus, Ohio called Westside Barbell. And who would think that Columbus, Ohio would be home to some of the strongest athletes of all time? But Louis poured his heart and soul into that. And that's where I cut my teeth and learned powerlifting. But something I learned from him was what I just mentioned earlier, was really just trying to pour a lot of time into other people and investing in other people. And also in understanding probably one of the more, I'll go over maybe just a couple. One of the more valuable things I learned from Louis Simmons was, you don't know who the person is that you're investing your time in. So even on this call right here, like these people that are on this call right now are going to be able to acquire a lot of the things that they're working towards, a lot of the things they probably already wrote down, a lot of things you guys probably already journaled about. Like, there's somebody on the show, Matt's going to tell me 4 or 5 years from now, you're like, hey, remember that show? Remember we did that show and they got those kids on there? And, or maybe it's 6 or 8 years from now. And he's going to say, yeah, this guy does this now. This guy does this now. And this guy does that. And I'm not going to be surprised.
Yep.
It's going to be like, okay, well, yeah, of course, because these are men that are seeking out great information. These are one of the guys that I listen to quite a bit on YouTube, Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn used to do seminars, and yeah, he's a motivator and stuff. And he's like, I was walking into the building today to come and do this seminar, and I couldn't help but notice there was a BMW in the front row. Next to it was a Rolls Royce. There was a Lamborghini out there. He's rattling off all these beautiful cars. He's like, it's so weird that all you guys showed up here to like get motivated and to get information. He's like, it looks like you already got it going on, So a lot of the people on this call, you guys are you're already doing it. Like, you're in the process of doing it. And there's no cooler time in your life than when you're in this development stage. You'll just feel on fire. A lot of you guys that are listening right now, you'll probably be the next 5-10 years of your life where you're going to be annoying to some people around you, because you're just going to be a ball of fire, and you're going to be so pumped and excited, and you're going to try to tell your spouse and your friends, and half the people aren't going to really, they're not going to care as much as you care. But Louis Simmons, yeah, he taught me, it was really valuable lessons of, pouring time into other people, not taking for granted any one person, especially by the way that they looked, not judging a book by its cover, not by the color of the person, not by how tall or short or fat or skinny or lean or muscular. Take the same amount of time with everybody, treat everybody with respect, really value the questions they're asking. And also, here's what you can read. You can read the question from the person. You'll know a lot about a person from the way that they ask a question, or the types of questions they're asking. There's some people who pass right by you, and they probably would like to ask a question. And that's kind of the worst. That's kind of the worst way to go about doing things. Like, there's just a hypothetical, like say that you drive home every day from work, and you pass by the next door neighbor's house, and he's got this beautiful boat out there, and you love boats and would love to one day have the same fishing boat. Well, you could just knock on the door and said, "Hey man, I brought you over some Coke Zeros. Want to crack some of these open? I got some questions about that boat over there," or some beer or something like that. But we don't really do that a lot of times, you know? And so you have to be a person that is constantly seeking it out. And I think what Louis was doing, he knew how hungry he was for the information. And so he wouldn't dare to disrespect that kid or that person that came up to him and asked a question. They took the time to actually ask the question, even though they were super nervous. I remember asking him questions. I remember getting on the phone with him and talking with him. And he was like an idol to me. So I could barely speak, you know, but I did ask questions. And then we got in conversation one day, and he was like, "Well, you can come to my gym anytime." And I was like, "What the hell?" I was like, I got to figure this out. And not only did I figure that out, I moved from California to Columbus, Ohio to train with him for a while and look at the impact that it's had on my life. And then the impact it's had on each person from there. So you guys that are going to go on to do big things, you're young and you're fired up and you're excited and like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. And you will, and you'll crush it. But what's really cool is the amount of other people that you're going to take with you, the amount of other people. You can also be impacted the other way. So I had two, on my mother's side, there was a lot of alcoholism. On my dad's side, we didn't have any of that. On my mother's side of the family, they had 9 children. My dad's side of the family, they had 9 children as well. So I mentioned a big family earlier. My mom's side of the family, there was all kinds of abuse. There was, you know, physical abuse, there was sexual abuse, there was verbal abuse. As a result, my mom struggled immensely throughout her life. It was just life was not easy for her. It was a struggle. And she was so strong that she barely let me or my brothers even see any of that, which is amazing. I still don't know how she held it together to be able to do that. And as I mentioned earlier, she instilled a lot of belief in us, even though she didn't have much in herself because of her own childhood. Well, my point here is that my grandfather on my mom's side of the family negatively impacted her, which killed my brother Mike and almost killed my brother Chris. It killed my uncle. That side of the family is just, it killed like a niece of mine recently. It's like a second niece, I guess you'd say, died recently from drug overdose. It's all from it. And he had his own, you know, look, everyone's got their own shit going on, right? But this was his way of interpreting what was going on in his life. He chose to drink. He chose to make a lot of other bad choices and bad decisions. Now, my dad's side of the family, there's none of that. It's like, oh my God, Easter's coming. Like, let's all get together. Oh my God, Christmas coming. Let's all get together. Oh God, summer's coming. This is going to be really cool. We're going to be able to play basketball and wiffle ball in the front yard and football in the backyard. And, you know, Christmas is coming. We all buy each other gifts, and it was all happy. It was all more in that vein. And so the things that you guys are doing right now, you got to think, if you say one bad thing to the wrong person, you can kind of set them off in a really crazy direction. But you do one great thing for somebody, and it can amplify and multiply and have an impact on so many other people as well.
So good, man. The ripple effect is non-negotiable. You don't get to pick necessarily how far it goes or who it hits along the way, but there's always going to be that ripple effect, and you want that.
It's called a meme.
It's
a meme.
That's right.
Yeah, it's a meme. A guy wrote a book about it. It's like it's almost like the passing on of a gene.
Yes.
But it's, you know, you see the memes on on the internet. They were written by a guy who wrote a book like, I don't know, in the 70s or something, but a meme is a passed along idea that keeps getting passed along and passed along, keeps getting propagated like a
Right.
gene.
That's right. Oh, so good. Does that make sense, Antonio?
Yeah, thank you, sir, for sharing that.
Appreciate
That's
it.
awesome. That's awesome, man. Yeah. And I remember, one of the conversations one of the first conversations you and I had, I asked you something about, the legacy of Mark Bell and what that looked like. And even then, this was years ago, but you were saying, look, man, the legacy is what I passed down, the ripple effect I passed down to my family. That's it. I don't care about the rest like that. It's that, even then it was just like, that's what's going to matter is how does that impact Andy? How does that impact my kids? How does that impact their future kids? Like, that's the legacy. Like, that's it. I love that.
100%.
Are you okay with a couple more? We got Matthew and Jude.
Yes,
Are you
sir.
good? Okay, awesome. Thank you, sir. Matthew, go ahead, sir.
Hi, sir. Thank you for coming onto the call today. I was wondering what made you joyful in your everyday life.
What was the word he just said there? I missed.
Joyful.
Joyful.
Like that.
That's a
I like that.
great question and a awesome choice of words as well.
Yeah.
I think, trying to figure out like, being happy and like what makes you happy and makes, what you find joy in. It's all interesting things, but I tend to really gravitate towards, and set myself up the best way that I can for feeling happy and or being joyful. I think joyful maybe is like slightly different category because I would think that like, to me, joyful would mean like there's a little probably accomplishment in there. Whereas happy could just be like, I don't know, you just ate some ice cream, kind of made you happy, or just the thought of ice cream makes you happy, makes you smile, right? So yeah, joyful is like, I wanted to wake up this morning and get in a run. We had a guest in, and he's getting pretty proficient at running, and so I wanted to tag up with him and get a run in, and so that's what we did, and I think I get joy out of enjoying a journey like that with somebody else, probably more so than by myself. And part of the reason why my gym here in West Sacramento, any of you guys, if you live local, the gym is free. It's 855 Riverside Parkway, West Sacramento, California. Or if you're ever in the area with your family or something like that, the gym is free every Saturday, Sunday, open from 10 to 1. Stop on in, or even during the week, Tuesday, Thursdays from like 3 to 7 or something like that. But I find a lot of joy in spending time with other people and being able to assist other people, being able to help other people. That's probably where I get the most joy. And then I find myself oftentimes pouring time and telling people stuff that they probably didn't even really sign up for. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm doing it. I need to stop. I'm gonna stop talking. Like shit, man, they don't care, do they? Why am I trying to tell this person how to live their life? Damn it, I'm stuck here again. But it is a joy for me, and it is a pleasure. And I do think I'm a big proponent, big believer that we do have a lot of control. It can be really hard. Like some people are kind of stuck behind the 8 ball a little bit more than others, and so it makes things a little more difficult for them to put that first foot forward. But I take a lot of joy in being able to assist someone to even take that first step. And so I might come at somebody and might be all fired up and excited, but they're not even ready. They're not ready for my speech. It's unwarranted. I'm just I'm soliciting to them when they're not really in the right frame of mind to even take that on. So I have to actually be a little careful with my joy because I like to spread it around a bunch.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah. If you guys aren't, I don't know exactly how many of you guys are on Instagram, but again, when I was saying Mark is one of the only guys I'll actually pay attention to on there. I think he does. He spreads a lot of the joy. He doesn't take himself super seriously all the time, but when he does, there's even a hint of joy in what he's saying, from a, you can get all the inspirational words, but you can feel it with him because he's living it and he's joyfully doing that. So I would encourage you guys to check that stuff out. Jude Dalton.
Thank you, sir, for having on the call. My question is kind of different from all the other ones, but when did you stop powerlifting and why?
Let's see. I probably stopped powerlifting probably maybe like 6 or 8 years ago or so. As I mentioned in the beginning of this episode, I basically said that a lot of times when you're looking for something new, it's because something old wasn't working for you any longer. And that's basically where I was at. You know, I lifted for a really long time. I loved it. I enjoyed it a lot. I also got to a point, you know, there's kind of like this saying in business. Some people apply it to some other things, kind of like double your efforts or quit. And I felt like I doubled and tripled and quadrupled my efforts many times over in powerlifting. And it was just time to move on. I also saw a lot of other people being stuck, and they were just like, powerlifting is cool, but I wasn't necessarily identifying myself as a power lifter only. And I saw that with a lot of other people that I knew. And I still see it today. I see a lot of people that like, I'm an influencer, I'm a creator, and it's like, sometimes you need that mindset to kind of shift your direction and your focus in a particular way. But for me personally, I never liked that identity because I like to be a lot more balanced. You know, my favorite part of the day is not lifting. My favorite part of the day is not running. My favorite part of the day is it's not podcasting. My favorite part of the day is to go home with my family and to see them and to spend some time with them. Sometimes I go home, I'm super excited, they're not even home. Sometimes it doesn't even, and Matt knows what I'm talking about. Like sometimes it just doesn't even, you're like excited. You're like, oh, I'm getting home a little earlier today. It's going to be kind of cool. And like, you're like, where's everybody?
Yeah, totally.
What happened to everybody? But yeah, for me, it was important for me to detach myself from my own self in some way, you know? And so I still will power lift. I still do the movements. Powerlifting is bench press, squat, and deadlift. I still will do the movements. I just currently don't do them anywhere near the magnitude that I used to. And I'm not sure if I ever will again. And I'm cool with it. And I think that's an important thing. I think routines are great and they can really bring you places. But I also think that you end up kind of being fragile if you need that routine. If you have to have, you know, your reverse osmosis water with pink Himalayan sea salt in the morning. And then you have to read, you know, 3 verses of the Bible, and then you have to, you know, ground yourself outside and walk around barefoot and get sunlight for 10 minutes and so on. And you have to do that every day. And a day comes where that's just not there. I think you're kind of missing the point of what some of those things can do for you. So powerlifting did so much for me, and I'm still going to carry powerlifting around in my heart. It's still going to be ingrained into my system, into my body until the day I die. It was a big part of what I did and big part of what I love. But again, I just didn't want to just set my identity to only be that. And I would say, just kind of end on that note, there is probably one of the proudest things that I've ever run into before. There's so many things in this lifetime to be proud of, but from a personal perspective and from a career standpoint, I've been recognized a handful of times as, oh, you're that inventor guy. You invented that slingshot. That's been the coolest thing, because I personally didn't view myself as being smart. I told you the background. I told you some of the story. And to be viewed, I never even really thought of that before. I mean, I do have a United States patent, so I'm aware of that. It's framed, it's in my house. But that was just from that, when it's from the outside, when it's somebody else's judgment call, like you said, legacy. We don't get to pick our legacy. You know, the legacy gets picked by those that are left behind. And yeah, I would love to be known for being great and being a big impact and stuff, but I don't get to choose any of the words that people are going to choose when I'm gone. maybe Matt's gonna say, yeah, he was a great Instagram scroller, man. I was trying to talk to him, and Mark was just over there in the corner with Tech's neck, just sitting there flipping through Instagram. But we don't get to choose what people are going to kind of say about us in that. But for me, one of the proudest moments was getting recognized for something different, because I was like, that is really cool, because I did want to make sure that I wasn't just so connected to this one thing of powerlifting.
So good. So good. I like how you assume I like how you assume that you're going before I am too. I don't know about that. It's all the gray that's in here. I'm not making a bet on that, man. But yeah, I want to be respectful of your time. I know Antonio and Matan have a hand up. Are you okay for one more? I don't want to mess anything up.
Let's do it.
You're awesome, man. Thank you. Go ahead, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, sir. I have a question about your routine in powerlifting. What did your diet look like in regards to like what were you eating, and then how are you timing your eating with your training?
Powerlifting is awesome because you get to you get to really get after it food wise.
Yeah, you do.
And so when I was powerlifting, I was 330 pounds. Nowadays, I'm more like 225. So I've lost over 100 pounds. And the diet back then was, during the day, I would eat well. I would eat a lot of protein, and the protein sources were usually meat. Occasionally there would be a burrito in there, maybe a breakfast burrito. I haven't had a breakfast burrito in a long time. Damn, those are good.
Yeah.
Rice, maybe some beans, potatoes, kind of a real common, almost like bodybuilder style diet. But because in powerlifting, you're not getting judged on your physique at all, I would also let loose with some like ice cream or candy. Like I literally just at some point needed a lot of calories because I was trying to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Because one of the fastest ways to get stronger is to work on, obviously not just getting fatter, but getting bigger in general. And so you want like a caloric surplus. And so I would, like I said, I would eat, pretty clean during the day. And then afterwards I'd kind of have at it, and I really just enjoy a lot of food. And I took that to an extreme. Now, if somebody just wants to like get bigger and stronger, but still look great, then I would suggest you look at Stan Efferding and the model that he laid out it's a book called The Vertical Diet. All the information is in there. It's really great. But the basics of it are you're sticking with lean meats, rice, potato, fruit, little room for some vegetables. But Matt, I think you eat pretty cleanly, right? And I think that I think it's awesome that you guys brought up diet, because we can talk about the mind a lot, but if we're not exercising the body, the mind's going to rot. It's not going to work well. Like this body needs to be moved a lot. I think it was a friend of mine posted today, a friend of mine named Joel Green. He posted today that it was believed that people before the Industrial Revolution used to walk 7 to 8 miles every day. That's the equivalent of 20,000 steps a day.
Wow.
So our bodies need to be they need to be very active. And I think it's rare for people to get their heart rate up above like 120 for multiple minutes at a time in this day and age. And so you want to exercise the body, and you want to make sure the foods that you're taking in, at least follow a percentage of some sort. Can you do 70-30? Can you do 80-20? I'm talking about good food versus maybe not such good food choices. And maybe over time, like myself, when I was powerlifting, it was probably more like 70-30. As when I retired from powerlifting, I shifted into some bodybuilding, and then it was like 90-10. And now I'm still probably somewhere around that range, because that taught me that discipline to stay there.
Yeah, still super solid. Yeah, you hug Mark, and it's like hugging a boulder. It just is, and it's fantastic. But Antonio, to your credit, sir, I know that you're consistent with that too. I know you're very intentional about that, and part of that's athletics. But you're very goal oriented in that way, and you crush it, man. I mean, I saw that picture of you at the beach the other day, sir. You're no slouch, man. So Oh, so good. Yeah. Keto works great for, Colin. I mean, for a lot of people, my wife is very much, and has been for years. She came at it from more of from the headaches and fixing all of that, but it's been phenomenal.
Yeah, I wrote a book as well. It's called The War on Carbs.
Yep.
It's like $25. You can pick it
Yep.
up at markbellslingshot.com
Yeah.
if you guys are interested. But that's a little bit more of a, kind of body transformation,
Right.
style of diet, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And you guys, we'll put that obviously in the show, but I want you guys to you guys check out that website as well. That's so the Steak Shake is the only protein powder that I ever mess with. That's it.
Awesome.
Zero. I freaking love it. My kids love
Great.
it. Yeah, it's the only one that we touch, man. So, and not just
Fantastic.
because you're a friend, but because it's legitimately just good stuff. So, yeah, man, so grateful for you, man. I literally could talk to you all day, every day. And for you taking the time to pour into these guys. I know you got Jason coming on too. So any last words or anywhere, because we'll put this out as an episode as well. So anywhere you want to send anybody or last words that you want to leave everybody with.
Well, just like everybody to know that, you're, you can take a moment, you can pause, you can pause life. You don't need to respond to the text message right away. You don't need to respond to the Instagram comment that was made. You can work on reframing the mind, reframing. I mean, first of all, why are you in the Instagram comments in the first place? You're probably looking for a little extra pat on the back. And instead of a pat on the back, someone knocked your hat off your head. And you're like, you son of a, right? But that's a harmful place. Like, it's a harmful place to hang out a lot of times. And so you can either stay out of there or you can work on trying to have some equanimity when you're there and try to be at baseline with your emotions. And why, like for myself, I let that guidance counselor move my emotions a ton. Meanwhile, my parents would, instill these great things, say great things to me, and my emotions weren't moved one way or the other because I'm like, it's my parents, right? My value assignment was messed up at that time. My value assignment should have been more into my parents than into what an outsider thinks of me. And so just understand you have control over your emotions. You don't have to be dragged and ripped around by them all day long. You can, and if that's a struggle for you, you can still put stuff on pause. You do not have to react and respond right away. And what you'll find, if you just wait a moment, those urges will go away. Like if you literally just said, oh my God, I can't believe this person texted this to me, or I can't believe so-and-so said that to me the other day. I didn't have a chance to process it and I didn't say anything, but now I'm really pissed off. If you give it time, you'll be able to organize your thoughts. Also, again, if you go from their side of it, go from their side of it for a second and put yourself in their shoes and say, man, okay, crap. I can see it their way a little bit. Damn it. And then you can communicate with them in a different way. And then now you're not like just coming at them, all fired up and all kinds of mad. Right. So
true.
Those are some things I learned over the last, several years, is how to kind of have that, I guess, like emotional intelligence. It's something you can't see. It's not tangible. A lot of people don't understand it. A lot of people think that you don't care. I mentioned my brother's death. I mentioned my mom's death. We've had misfortunes. We've had things happen, and I'm not bulletproof. It's not like I haven't cried over my mom passing. Of course I have. But how sad am I going to get? How much am I going to let it affect my day to day? Am I not going to be there for my daughter, Quinn? Am I not going to be there for my son, Jake? Am I not going to be there for my wife because I'm just so sad I cannot function? Anyone who is alive, they can die. So remember what I talked about, exposure. How do I expose myself to this big weight? How do I get myself prepared for this? Expose yourself, run yourself. It's a horrible thing to do, but it's a horrible thing to do, but anybody that you know, everything and everyone that you know is temporary. And it's an important thing to be grounded into. And it sucks and it will hurt. But it happens. It's part of being alive. It's part of being human, that we get connected with other people. And unfortunately, sometimes that other person just no longer likes you, or the person gets sick, or they get in a car accident. I mean, all kinds of horrible things can happen. So just recognize that those things can happen. Be prepared for those moments, and also understand you do not have to allow your emotions to just rip you around and pull you in all kinds of different directions.
Absolutely. All great Stoics you guys in history have had similar things. I know you guys are reading Obstacle is the Way is one of the books that these guys are reading, and, you know, for Ryan Holiday, but diving into some of those classical Stoic writings, you guys, everybody has elements of exactly what Mr. Bell just said right there. And equanimity is the word. I love that. And actually, I think one of the first times I heard that used recently was when I was listening to you and Nick. And I went, oh yeah, that's a great word. I forgot about that word, but more importantly,
Hard to spell.
So it is. Yeah, I won't even try. Man, super grateful for you, my friend. Give Jason a hello. I don't know if is he coming in the studio?
Yeah, he should be here in maybe like a half hour or so.
Oh, cool, man. Yeah, tell him I said hi, for sure, and give Jake a big freaking bear hug for me, too, man. I'll shoot him a text as well, man. So miss you guys, but thank you, brother. I appreciate you. I'm gonna reach out to you here and after I walk these guys through some things, man. And just again, thank you.
What an amazing group you got. Congratulations, man. This is so
Great,
cool.
young man. It's the best, man. You guys, what do you guys think?
Thank you, Mr. Bell.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
It's awesome.
Thank
man.
you.
Man.
All right, guys, I'm gonna go. Catch you later.
All right, we'll see you, sir. Here we go. Yeah, I mean, once again, you may know, you may not know, but that's a living legend in so many ways right there. But, you know, regardless of all the accomplishments, all the feats, you know, business wise, lifting wise, you know, being known by everybody on the planet, and he goes on Rogan's podcast, and he goes, he's just that's what you get right there. He's a really, really good human being who cares about the journey of other human beings. That's why he's one of my favorite people. And I'm excited to call him a friend. Anytime I get to talk to him is a good day. So what do you guys think? Any kind of takeaways that you guys want to pull out there? I want to make sure we honor the time. We got 19 minutes.
I really like how he said to put yourself in the view of other people's shoes, like kids, your wife, your spouse.
Yes.
To see how they're looking at the situation.
So important, man. And for you guys, you know, as you're young, sometimes it's the parents part that gets tough, you know, that we take for granted. So it's like, put yourself in the role of mom, put yourself in the role of dad, and just like, okay, why would they have said that? What's going on? And, you know, part of what's funky about growing up is that you realize your parents are still growing up too. And that's a weird realization for you guys to get to. You realize they're still growing, they're still trying, they're still figuring things out, you know, a lot of times. And so put yourselves in those situations. Yeah, Antonio, it's a powerful concept, man, for sure. Turner, what do you think?
I liked it how he talked a lot about patience and making sure not to just to take some time, calm down, get ready, get more focused in the moment of what you're doing, and not get aggravated with your children or your spouse or whatever scenario you're in, that you're focused on what your intention is, and making sure you don't lose grip of that.
So good, man. Yeah, that is his attitude right there all the time. I mean, he's pretty dang calm, enjoys himself, kind of jokes a little bit, but he stays calm even in that crazy stuff. Yeah, I think it's a super good skill. Bryce.
What I really liked what he was talking about was, I loved what he was talking about with athletes believing in themselves, because that's one thing that I've struggled with, especially coming into a new sport, and especially the team that I'm on. I am by far the worst performer, and so I still do well, but I'm horrible compared to my teammates. And so that's been a hard thing for me, is believing in myself to do well, and then also talking about with your parents and not taking their compliments well. That's another thing is, you know, I do the exact same thing. Like, oh, my parents tell me that I'm good, or that I look good, or that my haircut's good. And then I never take it to heart. 'Cause it's like, oh, it's my parents. They're kind of obligated to tell me that.
Yeah.
It's nice hearing another person say that and realizing that like it's not just me that does that. So that's something that I've been working on the last few months to get rid of.
Good for you, sir. Yeah, good for you. Because just because they are your parents, it doesn't mean they're wrong, and just because they're not necessarily objective, it doesn't mean they're incorrect, in some of those things. So yeah, well said, sir. Very, very well said. Mr. King.
I like that he did really long and detailed answers.
Yeah.
Because you really get the information that you need out of the questions.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he genuinely cares about people, and he's willing to spend time and have conversations because he wants you to be able to take stuff away. So yeah, I appreciate that about him too. You bet. Matan.
Yeah, I really like how he talked about controlling your emotions.
Yeah.
And how people, I don't know, maybe if you have a son or people who look up to you, as a strong man who can control and acknowledge his emotions, not push them down, but control them and not let them take you over is really important as a role model.
Oh, so good. So Matan just hit on something that is extraordinarily powerful, you guys. And so, yeah, when it comes to emotions, when we talk about masculine emotions, right? There's a difference between what boyhood from a DNA aspect would have you do versus what a masculine, what you can do as far as embracing, the masculine way that you handle those emotions. A boy could either suppress, for sure, or be controlled by those, right? A man is going to acknowledge they're there, figure out how he wants to grieve through things or be upset through things, figure out how to do that, but not be controlled by it and not necessarily have to share that with the world in a negative way, right? It's that mastery. Emotions are not bad things. They're not bad things. They're natural things, but not being mastered by those, you becoming the master of them and not suppressing them, it's a skill set. It really is. It's a skill set. It is okay to have those emotions. We just don't want to be controlled by them nor suppressing them. We want to acknowledge them, go, okay, what am I learning here? Do I need to grieve through this? But I'm not going to give an outward response that changes somebody else for a negative because of my emotion. So powerful, man, for sure. Really, really good. Really good, you guys. Quickly, I want to make sure, since we got Matan on, I want to make sure we get to finish that introduction, man. So this is literally as of this morning. I just met this young man. You see, he's over there with Antonio because they are at the same location in the same school. So we heard that you are 16, sir, but give these guys a little background to you. So like we always go, okay, where are you in the world? How old are you, and what kind of things are you into? So we've got two of those. Give us a little bit of what you were saying you're into, sir.
Yeah, I'm really into just like going to the gym and staying active. Still working on being consistent with that, but I really enjoy going to the gym. And personally, I just started a business, and I'm really into kind of like entrepreneurial adventures.
Mm-hmm.
I help other entrepreneurs with their YouTube channels, and I love skiing. Another active thing. I just like being active.
So cool, man. I love it. Yeah, we got to meet this morning, and yeah, I was fired up to hear about the business side of that too. And he's shared some other experiences where he's a young man who's going to stand up for what he believes in, but he knows exactly what he's after as well and where he wants to grow. And so super excited to have you in the brotherhood, sir. Very much so. So we got a lot of other entrepreneurs that are on this very call right here as well. And so we're in a good spot, man. Very excited. Gentlemen, I know we only have like 11 minutes here jumping off, so I just want to make sure I hit a couple things, and then I just want to open it up. I'll just open it up to whatever serves you guys the best. So January 1st, we're going to be launching a men's program. It's a father's program. We got some really good guys, some guys that you would know, many guys that you wouldn't. We got some dads of Apogee young men as well that are joining. Yeah, that's right, Bryce. Yeah, your dad's in there, which I'm super excited about. And yeah, Antonio and Jude, dad's in there, which is awesome, man. Excited about it. So we got some really good things going on with that, which is exciting. They will also have challenges and projects, obviously, that are different than yours. part of, their challenges and projects too will be being able to be available for you guys as well. So just another level of support by good men doing really good things. And so I will likely be inviting them to be able to attend some calls if they want to attend some. These are your calls though. They will not be jumping in and overstepping. This is for you 100%, but I want them to know what's going on, and then just being able to be a resource for you guys as well. So you will have some extra good men that are just at your fingertips for you to reach out to. And if you have more questions, obviously I'm available 24/7. Obviously Workplace is a phenomenal place to, easiest place to do it. Every one of you that has ever reached out will, confirm that I've always gotten back to you and I always will. These guys will just be another extra level of support. So that's exciting. I'm also going to send out the leadership. I say leadership, the battles, not the battle squad, the running buddy groups. You guys decided you want groups. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send out just a spreadsheet and I'm going to have a few different names that are there. What I'm doing is at your guys' request, I'm putting some of the OGs separate. So I've got, OG over here. We've got, Antonio is one of the OGs. We got Antonio right there. We got Parker, here. You got Aiden, you got Kaleo, you've got Malachi, you've got, right. So some of these OGs, and then you guys can sign up to be, we'll go, 3 to 4 guys per running group. And you guys can jump in on the spreadsheet and just lock in with one of these guys. And all that means is we'll make that your running group. But I'm separating some of the OGs intentionally so that we've got somebody that's kind of, been in longer and gone through more things that's in each group. So we'll get that over to you guys as well. I'll drop that into Workplace so that you guys can sign in on there and we can have those groups set up. That's all I have on my end. We can save the thought exercise for next week. Next week we'll be back normal on Friday. You'll get your intro, but again, workplace. I will always be posting things in there, and we'll definitely be posting some videos of some of your brothers as we go through Squire program this upcoming weekend too, with some of these guys there, which is going to be really exciting. So as far as the last 8 minutes, this is all yours. Any questions that you guys want to throw out there? Any victories, anything you want to throw out? The time is yours, gentlemen. All right. Yes, sir. Kashvia boys.
Yeah. I have a question about the Apogee Month 2 project, the portfolio. How to make them and what they're mainly used for.
Awesome. Great question. Thank you for bringing that to the group, you guys. That's exactly what this is for. Bring the questions to the group. So talking about the digital portfolios, I can tell you, so the Greenfield young men have made some phenomenal portfolios. I can tell you Aiden, I can tell you Will's, Benaya's. We've got a number of guys that have made some really good ones. So first and foremost, definitely check in Workplace. I try to hashtag that digital portfolio or portfolio. So check through because we have some links that are right in there. River and Terrence said they can send you. That's perfect. Awesome, you guys. If you don't mind doing that, and that's something you can even link to each other in Workplace. You guys have the ability to connect right there as much as you want. So yeah, that's phenomenal. Anybody else have any insight as far as hey, I like using this particular site or program to do this? Does anybody have anything? Just go ahead and throw it out there if you have something.
I would highly recommend Wix over anything. It is really easy to get done. And yeah, I would recommend Wix. And my big thing is right now, document everything.
Heck
Even
yeah.
if it's the fact that you went to your uncle's wedding and said some words about him, just have, even if immediately after that you wrote some notes about what happened, so that you have content to put on your portfolio. That is the most important thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, document. Yeah, Wix is a great one. I know a lot of guys have used that. Wyatt R says Google Sites. That's another one that I agree. Wyatt, that's another really good one. I know you're working on yours right now. And a lot of you guys, again, don't forget the intent of these is not for us an assignment. The intent is to open up doors for you guys. I promise you, when you go, when you go to a prospective employer or admissions department for a college or whatever that looks like, your next steps forward, and you go, hey, by the way, here's my website that's documenting this leadership journey. Here's 52 of the greatest men to currently walk the planet that I have sat down and had conversations with. Oh, and then I interviewed these guys. Oh, and I took on this project and I took on this project and this challenge and this challenge. And here's a reflection on Jordan Peterson's book, 12 Rules for Life. And here's, when you lay those things out, people will go, what just happened? You want to come to this college? Yes, please. You want to work here? Yes, please. That is the intent, right? It's exactly what Parker's saying. You document all this because people will look at that. It's not normal. People aren't going to normally be your age and come up and go, they're going to go, here's a resume that looks just like everybody else's resume with very little experience because I'm young. Here you go. And you're relying on other things to make it happen. You guys are being intentional about separating yourselves with this. That's what that's for. Greenfields.
This is just River. My question is for the month 3 operation into the fire for like the firemen or police force or military. Are they allowed to be retired or does it have to be an in-service
I think
person?
I think that's great. So yeah, you guys, there's always flexibility on these. So I want you guys to always it's a great question. It's a great question on that. I want you guys to use your best judgment on that, right? So if you have somebody, you're like, hey, I can grab them, but they're retired, they're whatever. Awesome. No worries. Definitely do that. And just so you guys know too, some of you guys have reached out around something like this specifically. So my brother too he's a firefighter. He's current firefighter. He's always like, if you realize like, hey, I would like to get another firefighter. I'd like to get another I have friends that are police officers. I have friends, like, I'm always glad to help make connections. If you guys have, difficult times sometimes finding certain people like that, reach out and let me know. I'm glad to help. So yeah, good question, guys. Yeah, very good. And Parker, did you have something else too that you were putting out there?
Yeah, I just have another victory.
Yes, sir.
So for those of you that are on Instagram, you might have seen I have a schedule I finally got a schedule and put something out there to keep myself accountable. I've got 3 and I should be scheduling someone for the 28th this month on either Thursday or today, just depends on who. And then I've got some guests I'm lining up for December. So I'm really getting things rolling and really diving into getting the podcast like out there.
So awesome, man. So awesome. Love to hear it. I heard you have a phenomenally handsome guy that you just signed up for December. Is that
He's the beard is his best feature, you have him on there just to ask about the beard.
It's what I've heard, man. It's what I've heard. So, from what I've seen, just photos, just awkwardly handsome almost, it's like uncomfortably.
He's like the Ryan Reynolds of Ryan Reynolds.
You know what? Thank you. I mean, yes, he is. Yeah, totally. And he's also full of crap, but that's all right. Yeah, no, it's exciting, man. I'm excited for you. Getting that out there. Well done, sir. Very cool. It is very cool. All right, gents, last 2 minutes. Anybody got anything? All right, man. And you guys, perpetually proud of you guys. Workplace, man. Keep checking it, keep pushing, reach out anytime. You guys know I am here to support you all day, every day. Don't forget, we're going to be on the other side on the coast here doing Squire program this coming week. So, I'll be heading out there tomorrow doing Kumalatos' show. I think I'm doing Aaron Alejandrino's show. I'm going to be setting up for Squire all day Friday. We're going to be rocking it on Saturday. I'll be bringing Malachi back to the airport on Sunday. So it'll be a little bit of a crazy time. So it may take me a little longer than usual to get back to you, but I will. All right, guys, you guys are phenomenal humans, man. Go forward, go crush it. Appreciate you guys. And let me know if I can serve.
Thank you, Mr. Bidro.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir.
Whoa. And Zoom doesn't want me to quit it. Bam. Weird. Hmm. Get this to stop.